AOS fans, Robin here, and I'm back again, and I have a deck review for you. The first one for a while, and the first deck review from Beastgrave. Yes, this week Pete and I are going to be picking from the full selection of the available Night Vault cards, so without the rotated Shadespire cards, and the few cards that you can have from Beastgrave, including the faction-specific ones. I'm playing Scarce Wild Hunt again, and Pete will take on Grashrak's Despoilers. And so what have we come up with? What have I come up with? What a fascinatingly different exercise deck building has been this time round. So many good ploys have gone from the game, and so many easy to score objectives also out of the window. It's been fascinating to try and construct a deck. I wanted to make use of the Hunt's manoeuvrability. I want to try and pack in lots of movement ploys. I also wanted to take advantage of their soul-binding objective, which is score immediately if they cast a spell. I'm not normally a fan of using warbands with magic, especially if they don't have a magical attack, as Scaeth doesn't. But I figured, things are different here. We're in a new world now, so let's give it a try. And a lot of powerful ploys, in particular, as opposed to spells. A lot of powerful ploys have been dropped from the game with the rotation out of Shadespire. So bringing in spells wasn't as difficult as perhaps it has been in the past. And fascinatingly, when I did my first pass, I managed to get 12 objectives. I can't remember exactly how many Gambits, but 20 or so upgrades. I have far more upgrades than I had Gambits that I wanted to include, which is the first time I think that's ever happened. So that's an interesting one. I think there are some good, solid upgrades in the current card set, but not so many ploys now. The Shadespire ones have gone. So anyway, what did I come up with? Well, for my objectives, using the manoeuvrability idea, I've come up with Supremacy, Calculated Risk, because I think it's still one of the easiest to score immediately, and you do still need a bit of glory to get you going. So you need to do that, and obviously there's no things like escalation and change of tactics, and cover ground have gone. Cover ground going is a bit of a blow for Scarce Wild Hunt. They will love. I hope there's an equivalent card coming, because they will love it. They've got so many fast fighters, so many options for giving them extra movement here, there, and everywhere. So a bit of calculated risk in there. Fired up because. A, because I've got Regal Vision in the deck, and B, because they're relatively easy to inspire. You've got to perhaps time it right, because you've got to have somebody, they've got to be left alive after they've charged at the end of the phase. But if you do manage to inspire somebody, then you're going to score fired up. Keep them guessing. Now, another interesting one. This potentially goes against sort of the manoeuvrability side of things, because you can't do all moves to catch Supremacy or something, but keep them guessing, because Carthaean has his card action, the horn action, that gives, and you're almost certainly going to want to do that at the beginning of the game. I think that's almost the sort of de rigueur opening move for Scarce Wild Hunt is blowing the horn. And then after that, you've only got to get 3 options, and they do have their own option for making an additional move action out of turn. So you could do a couple of charges and then a move and an attack. We're using the ploy that I'll talk about in a minute. Martyred, the cat's fragile. If you're going to charge, then you might die. So martyred in there to try and mitigate that. Now I've gone for tactical supremacy 1 and 4 and 2 and 5. The cycling out of the Shadespire variants has hit this kind of tactic a little bit. These aren't ideal. Generally, I've shied away from them in the history of playing the game. I've included them today. I might regret that. I have to see. I think I'm going to try and get Supremacy. So it's a possibility that I might pick one of these up along the way too. If it doesn't work, I could perhaps switch them out. I kind of thought of maybe going for something like Shortcut, maybe, because I've got Confusion and Arcane Transposition in the deck, or maybe something like Branching Fate, but there aren't that many 3 dice attacks, or maybe Warning Shot. Again, but I've only got 1 archer, so I shied away from those. I got bogged down with all those cards, although they seem relatively easy to score. I got bogged down with all those cards in the back end of the Night Vault season. So I've gone for Tactical Supremacy 1 and 4, 2 and 5 for perhaps a slightly less serious game, but just to try and do something a little bit different. Cry of the Wild is the jewel that is really handy if you can get it at the same time as you want to blow Carthaean's horn. Hunt's End is the hybrid, which is eminently scoreable. You've got to get 3 more objectives, or take out a wounds characteristic fighter of wounds characteristic 4. You can probably do one of those at some point in the game. That's the theory anyway, so that's why Hunt ends in there. Kurnoth's Snare. Score this immediately when an enemy fighter is pushed into a lethal hex. I've got quite a few push ploys in the deck, so I'm kind of hopeful of picking that up. Purifying Rites. Score this in an end phase if your warband holds all objectives in one or more players' territories. Could be easy, could be difficult. It depends on the setup. I have got Abyssos's Unmaking in the deck to make that a little bit easier. And finally, Soulbinding, just cast a spell. But I don't have that many spells. As you can see from the Gambits, I've only got 3 spells, and I kind of feel like that's given me a chance of one of those coming out. And I've only chosen relatively easy to score cards. If I can get Cathayan inspired, he rolls 2 dice, and I ought to score balance of probability. Ought to be able to cast one of these spells, even with just one. Even with him at level 1, there's a 50-50 chance. But we'll have to see how that goes. So Arcane Transposition, that is effectively Confusion, but not quite as good. Centre of Attention, again, this is for moving people about, possibly taking somebody off of an objective if Pete's on it, and then moving one of my players into the space, or maybe using it to pull somebody into a lethal hex, which will score me Kurnoth's Snare. Imbue with Life, again, to make... I've got the push ploy, so I can move the objective about, then maybe I can push onto it. Similarly, Irresistible Prize, again, it can be useful for getting people onto lethal hexes, or just moving my guys closer, or something like that. So that's what Irresistible Prize is in there. Mirror Move. Now, Mirror Move is an interesting one. And it's got potential with knockback and something where you can push people extra hexes. You can mirror move into position. It actually quite a nasty card against Scouts Wild Hunt, because we've got the 3 push card. And similarly, if Pete does knock me back, then maybe I can just push one of his fighters off an objective at a time, or maybe I can push somebody into a lethal hex as a response to his attack. In response to his move and gain an objective. The good thing about Mirror Move is it's a different fighter. So it doesn't even have to be... it can be his fighter. If you play this after an opponent pushes a fighter, it can be when he pushes his fighter, or when he pushes your fighter. And similarly, you can push your fighter or his fighter. So it's got quite a lot of flexibility. And I don't think I quite considered that when looking at it with the Shadespire cards, because there were some more obviously better choices. But Mirror Move, I think, could be a Scathe Hunt, and especially with these additional lethal hexes, it could be a key card for these guys in the coming months, depending, of course, what else comes out. Regal Vision for inspiration on an objective. Abyssos's Unmaking. This was a last-minute switch in the Sphere of Action, which is right to come out of sequence. And I'm making for just destroy an objective, could mess up supremacies for my opposing team if they're going for them. Similarly, it might help me score Purifying Rites. I can destroy an objective at the right moment. Fleet of Foot. This is the one that enables somebody to make a free move action. Hunting Concert, choose up to 2 fighters and push each one of the 1 hex, really useful. Pounce, push somebody up to 3 hex next to a wounded fighter. Again, could be useful in conjunction with some of the others. Push them into lethal hex and then move one of my guys up 3. Could be really, really powerful. And Confusion for swapping people over. And then my upgrades, Crown of Avarice, ideal for my slightly weak fighters who get in people's faces. Take away the glory from killing those. Reasonable on the cat, but if not on the cat, quite good on Sheikh or Althayan. I think Fainway Crystal, perfect for supremacy hunting warbands. Hunter's Tenacity. This was I'm not sure about this one. I've included it because, again, it enables me to, if I push a fighter off a hex, I can follow up. If I push a fighter off an objective, I can follow up and get on the objective, which is really useful. Slumbering Key, because I'm hopeful of having somebody left at the end. Sudden Growth, I think this is going to be a bigger card now with some of the move out. Sudden Growth is a restricted card, so I probably didn't get in over the likes of Change of Tactics and Escalation and Ready for Action. But now I think it's going to be a more seen card, and it's particularly useful for these guys because they're so fast anyway. So even with some of the characters, even with -2 move, they still move 3, which is pretty damn good. Spectral Armour for +1 defense on a dodge people, which is most of the warband. Battle Cry, again, all ready for pushing and removing guard tokens, so useful for getting in position, moving somebody, and then taking off their guard token so you can push them about a bit. Fast Shot, can't resist the chance to shoot twice with Althayan. Hail Charm, Another useful card, reducing damage by 1 to a minimum of 1. I think that could be powerful. Kurnoth's Mark. Now this is an interesting one. You could reroll 1 dice in the defense roll when this fighter is the target of an attack action. And then if there is a hunter, which I think is everybody apart from the cat, you can play it as a free action when you've taken a fighter out of action. So quite useful, I think. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But the only thing with it is that you don't really want it on either Sheoch or Atham because they will get the reroll of their dice anyway, but on the other two it could be useful. And finally I've gone for Great Fortitude because you can never have too many wounds. So that's it, that's the warband. What do you guys think? What else would you have put in? Would you have swapped in different things for tactical supremacy? Would you put in something different for Hunter's Tenacity? I'd be interested to know. We'll just have to see how this deck goes. I really enjoyed building this deck. I really like the fact that I've got a sudden reduced cards, which seems ridiculous. I've got all these cards that I've paid good money for and enjoyed playing, but actually this reduced pool of cards I think is a really great thing for the game. So let us know how you're getting on with your Wild Hunt decks, and look forward to the game, and we'll see you soon. Bye!